Something strange is happening far beyond the reach of any telescope ever built before. Something so subtle yet so deliberate that even the James Webb Space Telescope almost missed it. 3I Atlas, the mysterious interstellar visitor that once defied every known law of cometary motion, is no longer alone. A second object, faint, cold, and seemingly invisible to most instruments, has appeared in its path. And according to new data, this companion isn't just drifting alongside. It's changing course at first. Astronomers thought it was a background star, or maybe a fragment that broke off from 3I Atlas during its solar path. But when jwst focused its deep field sensors toward the coordinates transmitted by NASA's Near-Earth Object Surveyor, something unexpected happened. The infrared spectrum didn't match any natural fragment. Instead of a random piece of ice and dust, the signature showed patterns too organized, too stable, almost like the structure was maintaining itself. Scientists describe it as a faint repeating echo in the data, a reflection that pulses in harmony with the movement of 3I Atlas. When they tracked both trajectories together, they noticed something even more disturbing. The new object, initially trailing 3I Atlas by almost 2 million kilometers, slowly began to adjust its course, curving slightly inward as if responding to the larger object's motion. This is something no known debris cloud or fragment should ever do on its own. jwst's imaging sensor detected temperature fluctuations that didn't make sense. The companion seemed to absorb solar radiation and then release it in short controlled bursts, altering its speed in tiny increments. NASA's propulsion experts call this pattern unnatural. No known natural body adjusts velocity like that unless it's under active control or responding to external commands. And yet, there are no radio emissions, no known propulsion trails, nothing that would suggest a spacecraft or probe. It's as if the object itself is built from something that can manipulate energy silently. A researcher from the European Southern Observatory compared the readings with past interstellar visitors like Oumuamua and Borisov, and the result was chilling. This second body doesn't behave like either of them. Oumuamua had an unexplained acceleration, yes, but it was singular, brief, chaotic. This, however, is rhythmic, measured, intelligent. When jwst shifted its observation filters, it found that the new object emitted faint glints in ultraviolet ranges that looked like coded pattern. Not random, not natural, but almost like a beacon. Scientists are hesitant to say the word artificial, but behind the scenes, the whispers have started again, just like they did during Oumuamua's passage years ago. What if 3I Atlas isn't a comet, and this new body isn't a fragment? What if both are part of the same system, two pieces of something far more complex than we've ever encountered? Some astrophysicists think this could be a binary interstellar object system, something rare but theoretically possible. Others believe it's an escort, a controlled craft observing 3I Atlas, or perhaps guiding it. The alignment patterns are too precise to ignore. When one changes speed, the other adjusts within hours. No known gravitational interaction can explain that timing. As jwst continues to capture deep scans, the faint trail connecting the two is becoming clearer. It looks like a thread of ionized material, maybe plasma, stretching and contracting between them. It's not constant, but appears during high solar activity phases, as if both objects are drawing energy from the sun in synchronization. This has never been seen before in any interstellar body. The magnetic resonance data shows oscillations similar to those found near spacecraft fields, but with no mechanical noise, no signal interference. Some experts suggest the possibility of electromagnetic tethering, a concept where two objects could use solar plasma as a form of energy bridge. The technology required for such a process is far beyond our current understanding. If this is true, then what we're witnessing might not just be a coincidence of celestial mechanics. It could be interaction. NASA has now placed both 3I Atlas and the unidentified follower under continuous observation. They've redirected the Hubble telescope to assist with optical verification, but the object is dimming quickly, as if it knows it's being watched. Radio telescopes across Chile, Hawaii, and Canary Islands have all reported faint distortions near the region where the object's signal should be. Not direct communication, but a static resonance that moves in pattern with 3I Atlas's trajectory. Meanwhile, the theory circulating among independent researchers is that we're looking at a surveillance pair, one active, one passive. The active one, possibly 3I Atlas, interacts with the sun's magnetic field and releases massive flare. The passive one, the second object, observes, collects, and corrects its path in response. It's a system that almost mimics biological behavior, adaptation through observation as more data arrive. jwst is expected to perform another deep field observation cycle next week. The astronomical community is divided. Half believe this will finally prove 3I Atlas is an artificial construct, while the others think we're simply witnessing a rare, naturally resonant pair of interstellar bodies. But the one thing everyone agrees on, nothing like this has ever been recorded in the history of astronomy. And now, the most unsettling discovery of all. When NASA's tracking algorithm projected the next trajectory path for both 3I Atlas and its mysterious companion, the course didn't just lead through the outer solar system. The updated path curves slightly toward the plane of Earth's orbit, just enough to raise serious concern within the Planetary Defense Network. NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office has quietly shifted its observation priorities, moving 3I Atlas and its companion to a high-interest list reserved for potentially active interstellar anomalies. That decision wasn't made lightly. The latest telemetry from jwst, combined with data from the Deep Space Network, revealed something that couldn't be ignored. The secondary object isn't just following 3I Atlas, it's adjusting its trajectory in perfect mathematical sync every time 3I Atlas encounters a solar magnetic field shift. To the untrained eye, it might look like a gravitational slingshot, but the pattern doesn't fit the model. Natural bodies follow curves influenced by mass and distance. This one seems to be predicting them, responding milliseconds before the shift even begins. That means it's either receiving some kind of signal or anticipating gravitational variations through an unknown mechanism. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory tried to simulate the motion using all known parameters: radiation pressure, solar wind, and magnetic flux interaction. Nothing matched. Even with extreme assumption, the object's micro-adjustments couldn't be explained. It's as if the second object has an awareness of its environment or some level of navigation control built into it. Astronomers from the European Space Agency, working alongside the Chandra X-ray Observatory team, have started analyzing emissions detected from both bodies. Chandra recorded faint X-ray pulses every 47 minutes, originating not from 3I Atlas, but from the follower. These emissions are consistent with energy regulation, not radiation reflection, meaning whatever this second object is, it's doing something internally that maintains power balance. And if that's true, then we might be looking at an engineered mechanism, not a natural mass of ice and dust. Some researchers suspect that this might be a fragment from an ancient interstellar probe, perhaps ejected from a civilization's long-lost exploration program. Others propose that 3I Atlas and the follower are part of a self-replicating system, using solar energy to power slow communication or data transfer across stellar distances. If this theory holds, we might be witnessing two halves of an interstellar information relay, a cosmic pair built to share data across light years. But what's really making scientists uneasy is the recent orbital deviation. During the last 2 weeks, the faint object began drifting off its mirrored path. At first, only by a few hundred kilometers per hour, then suddenly by thousands. Instead of continuing parallel to 3I Atlas, it started to shift toward the ecliptic plane, the same region that intersects with the inner solar system. jwst's tracking logs show the moment it changed course. It wasn't a gradual drift, it was a controlled redirection. NASA's Solar and Heliospheric Observatory captured something peculiar during the event: a brief flash of light, lasting less than 2 seconds, reflecting off both objects simultaneously. Scientists think it could have been a synchronized burst of plasma, but some independent observers argue it looked more like a signal. Whatever it was, both objects altered velocity immediately after. That's when speculation began to grow inside the scientific community. If the two are communicating, what is the message? And why now? Meanwhile, Earth-based radar systems like Goldstone and Arequipa's successor array have attempted to bounce low-frequency signals toward the pair. No response. But a few hours after transmission, a small interference pattern appeared in the magnetosphere, faint but distinct, echoing the signal frequency. Coincidence, maybe? Or feedback from the solar wind? No one can say for sure. Some voices within the Planetary Defense Network have urged caution. If these objects are intelligently designed, any attempt to probe them might be interpreted as interference. Others argue that doing nothing could leave us blind to potential danger. The official stance remains purely observational, but behind closed doors, data from classified infrared arrays are now being cross-referenced with jwst's reading. Scientists tracking 3I Atlas's energy emissions have noticed another anomaly. Each time the secondary object changes course, 3I Atlas brightens slightly, as if reacting. That could mean energy transfer, communication, or mutual adjustment. The synchronized luminosity pattern repeats every 9 hours, forming a perfect cycle that no random event could produce. And then came the discovery that froze everyone at the Institute for Interstellar Research. Deep spectral analysis revealed traces of metallic compounds in the follower, not just metals, but structured alloy. The pattern matches no known meteorite, asteroid, or comet composition. It resembles engineered lattice materials used in spacecraft construction, except far more advanced. Still, no one is ready to say it's artificial. The word itself carries weight, the kind that could change how humanity views itself. But off the record, one senior astrophysicist admitted that if it isn't made, then it's something that learned how to build itself. jwst is preparing a full infrared compositional scan next cycle. It will take nearly 40 hours of continuous observation. The data will determine whether the metallic signature is surface contamination or structural. If it's the latter, this would be the first known example of a constructed interstellar body ever observed. But there's one final twist that no one expected. NASA's latest orbit projection places both 3I Atlas and its companion on a slow but steady inward trajectory, one that crosses near the orbit of Jupiter by mid-next year. And if the current path remains stable, Earth's gravitational field could become part of their slingshot maneuver in the decades to come. Scientists insist there's no immediate danger, but the uncertainty, the silence, and the precision of their motion are raising questions no one can yet answer. What are these two objects really doing? Why did the second one appear now? And why does it seem to respond only when watched? As the weeks passed, something shifted. The second object, which had been trailing steadily behind 3I Atlas began to change course. Early readings from NASA's Near-Earth Object Coordination Center hinted at a deviation so small that most tracking systems dismissed it as a calibration error. But by the third observation window, the drift was undeniable. The second object was altering its path, deliberately curving away from the predicted orbit. It was no longer following the gravitational trajectory it should have. This wasn't random. This looked intentional. NASA's jwst locked onto both bodies, attempting to capture high-resolution spectra of their surfaces, but what it found only deepened the mystery. The main object. 3I Atlas showed the same strange chemical ratios detected before, dominated by carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide with very little water, but the second object displayed a completely different signature. It was darker, more reflective at infrared wavelengths. Its surface temperature fluctuated erratically, as if something internal was generating bursts of heat. Within hours, researchers realized they were seeing two separate entities traveling together, but built or formed in entirely different ways. The term fragment no longer fit the data. Professor Loeb called it the strangest pairing ever recorded in interstellar astronomy. He explained that if two objects enter the solar system together, their velocity vectors should be nearly identical. Yet the secondary object was performing what looked like controlled corrections every time its trajectory started to diverge from 3I Atlas. It made micro adjustments that nudged it back into alignment. This kind of behavior doesn't happen naturally. There are no forces in deep space that cause course corrections that precise unless the object itself is actively maneuvering. Meanwhile, NASA's Solar and Heliospheric Observatory noticed a pulse in the solar wind around the same region where both objects passed. The magnetic field spiked twice in a symmetrical pattern separated by exactly 41 minutes. This timing mirrored the rotation period of 3I Atlas measured days earlier. Astronomers couldn't ignore the possibility that the two were communicating, exchanging signals through electromagnetic interference or plasma waves. The question was, what for and why now? Then came the radar anomaly, when the Deep Space Network transmitted a routine calibration signal. One of the antennas received an unexpected echo. The delay was too long for a terrestrial reflection, yet too short to have come from a planetary body. It matched the approximate distance of the twin objects. This would mean one of them had reflected the radar pulse back intentionally. Not by accident, the reflection showed a frequency modulation as if encoded with data. It wasn't just bouncing energy, it was shaping it publicly. NASA described the reflection as a system glitch, but privately. Insiders leaked that the waveform analysis revealed repeating intervals, not random noise, more like a structured response. If the second object was indeed sending encoded returns, that would suggest awareness of being observed and the ability to respond, which crosses the line from natural to artificial. JWST's next observation cycle confirmed another anomaly as it tracked the infrared emissions. The secondary object began emitting short energy bursts every 19 hours. 23 minutes. The pattern was consistent with propulsion impulses, but their intensity didn't decrease as expected. Each pulse seemed to maintain the same power output, suggesting either a steady internal energy source or something recharging between bursts. This was unlike any known chemical or nuclear reaction. It was too stable. Too controlled, some scientists began whispering about ion propulsion or something beyond our understanding. By mid-November, the European Space Agency reported a phenomenon even harder to explain. Both objects began to glow faintly in the ultraviolet spectrum, synchronized again to that same 19-hour cycle. The glow would peak, then fade together, as if sharing a common command signal. The brightness increase was measured at 0.4 magnitude during each event, enough to be visible through mid-range telescopes. That pattern wasn't caused by sunlight reflection, because it occurred even when the objects were positioned at angles where sunlight couldn't reach their surfaces directly. Something inside them was powering that light. Then in the first week of December, when 3I Atlas was emerging from behind the sun, astronomers noticed a sudden split in its radar silhouette. For nearly 4 minutes, the signal showed two distinct points instead of one. The secondary object had moved closer, aligning itself precisely with 3I Atlas, almost docking against it before both disappeared behind the solar interference zone. It looked coordinated, calculated, like two parts of a single mechanism reuniting after months apart, by the time the objects reappeared from solar glare ground. Telescopes picked up something new, a trail of smaller bodies following both of them like a swarm of debris. But the distribution pattern was too even, too symmetrical. These weren't random fragments, they were moving in a formation. Analysts compared the distances and realized they were spaced at near-perfect intervals, each maintaining stable separation through gravitational fields that should have torn them apart. It was a fleet, not debris. A.V. Loeb warned that if this were truly a coordinated system, it might mean we're witnessing a self-assembling structure, an interstellar craft repairing or replicating itself. Using resources harvested during its solar approach, the carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide detected earlier could have been propellants or byproducts of internal manufacturing. If this was the case, the entire 3I Atlas event would mark humanity's first direct observation of extraterrestrial engineering. In progress, the implications shattered every assumption about interstellar travel because it suggested the use of modular autonomous systems, each capable of independent function yet designed to merge when needed. This could explain why the second object had followed 3I Atlas so precisely and why its course changed. When they neared the sun, it was responding to a signal, possibly initiating a phase of synchronization. Radio telescopes from Chile to Hawaii began scanning the surrounding region for transmissions not just from the objects, but from the interstellar space behind their trajectory. And then something extraordinary happened. The Green Bank telescope detected a faint repeating pulse, not from the direction of the sun, but slightly beyond it, aligned with the extended path of 3I Atlas. The signal repeated every 142 seconds, a narrowband emission at 8.6 GHz, too specific to be natural. The pattern resembled a beacon repeating a coded identifier, then pausing before restarting. It was like a digital signature, broadcasting outward into deep space as if announcing its return. Governments went silent again. Official feeds were frozen. Data delayed updates, postponed, the narrative changed overnight. NASA described both objects as unstable comets, while news outlets lost access to public tracking systems. The same blackout pattern repeated exactly as it had during the first discovery months. Before, it was as if history was looping only this time. The evidence was stronger, the data clearer, and the silence louder. By December 19th, the system entered its closest approach to Earth. The infrared emissions intensified beyond anything predicted, and telescopes across the world captured a flare brighter than expected. Astronomers thought it was an outgassing event, but the light curve showed something different. A rise and fall with mathematical precision, not chaotic like dust, but pulse like a transmission pattern overlaid on visible light, and then it stopped. Both objects dimmed simultaneously, as if shutting down after completing whatever task they were designed for. The question now isn't whether these were comets or machines. The question is what they were doing here together, and what message they might have already sent back into interstellar space. Maybe 3i Atlas wasn't alone from the start. Maybe it was the lead element of a larger network entering our system for reasons we can't yet grasp. What if the second object wasn't following it at all, but escorting it, protecting it, guiding it through the solar system while it carried out its mission? Whatever that mission was, we may already be part of it without even knowing.